got you. We in the dome right now, we in the zone right now. Put your hands in the air, cause it's on right now. Yeah, we back up in this thing and we coming for the crown. Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
We in the dome right now, we in the zone right now. Put your hands in the air, cause it's on right now. Yeah, we back up in this thing and we coming for the crown. Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
As you can tell, last year it was an off year, but we reloaded and now it is our boss year. Seated back there and yeah, we got the badger. Don't forget my shun and don't forget the pass rush. Jameis QB1 dropping down to MT. Ball handed off the Alvin with the quick feet. So when you see the Saints marching, yeah, we gon' trouble you. At the Super Bowl party eating on them double. We in the dome right now, we in the zone right now. Put your hands in the air, cause it's on right now. Yeah, we back up in this thing and we coming for the crown. Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
We in the dome right now, we in the zone right now. Put your hands in the air, cause it's on right now. Yeah, we back up in this thing and we coming for the crown. Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Another episode of the NewOrleans.Football podcast. I'm Nick Underhill, joined as always by my co-host Kevin Washington. We got a good show today. We're going to talk about breakout candidates for the team this year, veteran expectations, some of the best camp battles. We'll get into a couple other topics, and we'll get you right and prepared for the upcoming last OTA. And then next week they're in the minicamp. Kevin, what's going on, man?
Oh, not much, man. Happy to be here. Chat already acting up. As you were saying who we were going to talk about, someone put Lucas Crowell name in chat.
Hey, man, he's looked decent. He's looked decent in camp, though. I mean, you don't want to overhype anybody too early, but I mean, if you're trying to, go to blank sportsbook, go ahead and sponsor us, and we'll say your name there, and you want to put a bet on a dark horse. I mean, I think he would be in the mix of like some of those long shot dark horse candidates. So,
yeah, man.
I mean, I don't think it's outrageous. I think that's a good spot. So if that wants to be topic one, we can talk about Lucas Crowell. But first, if you want to talk about Lucas Crowell and you want to be part of that conversation, you got to be a guy who has your money right. And if you want to have your money right, you got to call Daniel Sant. So if you're a business owner or an individual needing some guidance with your daily accounting, Daniel Sant CPA can help get your finances in order. They provide relevant accounting information, detailed analysis, and clear communication in a timely manner. Call today, 318-321-2765. Or visit santcpa.com. And if you need legal help with any of the following: car wrecks, offshore injuries, 18-wheeler collisions, Maritime and Jones Act, hurricane and storm claims, you better call Bato at 504-323-4777 or 985-677-1085 for your free consultation and case review. That's batolaw.com. So we got those guys. And Firehouse Subs. Check them out. They help out Alan with the feeding people, getting resources to people that are in need, and they also sponsor this podcast you're listening to. So check them out. Veterans Boulevard location. They do a lot for the community. They they step up where a lot of people don't step up. So give them a visit. Firehouse Subs, Vets Boulevard location, and that's it for the reads. We paid the bills.
Bills are paid. All right. Since you want to start on Crowell, my only take I have is I don't know if I want to be the coach in there telling guy last name Crowell that he's not making the team. I just I'm not sure I can get away with that. Sounds a little terrifying. That last name is it just sounds like a villain from one of them Conan the Barbarian movies, man. I love it, man.
A little bit, but look, man, he's looked good so far. He moves around well. He's done okay. I mean, look, it's 2 practices, and like one of the things about these like practices is that like one day one guy looks great, and then the next day they don't.
Yeah,
and we talk about this all the time. Like you need that prolonged exposure to actually draw conclusions. Otherwise, you're kind of like reacting to little bits and pieces of information. Like Jarvis Landry's probably not catching 5 passes every practice. I bet he probably looks good, but he's probably not catching 5 passes every practice. Lucas Crowell looks great one practice. The next practice, the ball doesn't find his way. Justin Evans looks great one practice. The next practice, there isn't a whole lot of action his way. So it's just kind of like reacting to things as they go along. We'll get a good, decent, prolonged exposure at minicamp. But even coming out of that, like the stuff we're seeing now doesn't really necessarily mean much in the grand scheme of things, but it's a progress report, and it's kind of where a guy's starting. Where's Lucas Crowell starting from? I like where he's starting from. I think he's got a solid foundation, but I mean, you got to do it for 27, 30 practices and what is it? 4 preseason games now? Three preseason games. So it's a lot of work to do, but they got us off topic, but on topic sort of. But I like what Crowell's done so far.
All right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if he plays well, if he's a name 2 weeks into the camp, we got to nickname him. I think we're gonna take the credit already for Crowell the Conqueror, and we get in front of the nicknames. Big Fish.
I'm not with that one. I'm not with that one. That one's you.
So all right.
For that one.
Well, chat named him actually.
All right.
You can, it's like the whole community, right? So you can't deny that.
Wesley, we can do better, man. We can do better.
I mean, he's like, I think
you gotta spell it with like a K at least. You can't put the C. Like you gotta get you.
But he's but that's a real villain from a movie, though. That's the part. I think that's.
What movie are we talking about?
Well, I was saying Conan the Barbarian. I think I ended up being right, according to Wesley. So we'll do some research on Crowell. But hey, man, if he do his job and he plays well, we'll do our job and get him a good nickname. So, anyway,
never seen the movie.
Well, yeah, it's been a couple.
Yeah, 1982. I'm not old enough to have seen that one. I don't watch stuff that like predates me in life.
I feel attacked. I feel like I'm being. I was just like, wait a minute. I feel like there's like a smile in my face and a knife in my back.
I only got a couple more years to get like old jokes off, and then it's over. So like I'm gonna take my shots where I got them.
Yo, I'm 40 this year, so don't tell me about old jokes. I was like, man, should I go into management?
I thought you were gonna say like, man, should I get a sports car or something? But I mean, because that's
no, I'm too cheap. Ain't the right word. I'm too smart for that. Maybe that's a better word for it.
We'll see. We'll see how you're feeling.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. All right, so we had a bunch of topics.
40's heavy, man. That 40's heavy, so we'll see.
Bro, don't get me started because I feel better than I ever felt, and I'm like,
that's a big number, man. It's a fullback number. Like you're a fullback now.
I'm halfway there. I'm halfway, bro. Like I'm halfway through the race. That's basically how I look at it. Like if you take the front, like I got that much left. That's really if I'm lucky, right? And so
all right.
Anyway, let's talk about the wide receiver from the Saints who he put out a video today.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I saw it. I was scrolling through the timeline. I saw your tweet about it first, and I was like, oh, okay. And I saw your text first and your tweet, and I was like, oh, there we go.
Yeah, somebody alerted me to it actually on they sent it to me and told me to go check the
one of your spies.
Well, I mean, look, man, it's a community. I love the people that kind of they
tip you off.
They rock with us. Yeah. So I mean, I appreciate that always for sure. That stuff, retweets, promoting, whatever. I mean, all of it. I mean, that's the stuff that makes us go. So I mean, this isn't just the 4 or 5 people that work for NOF. I mean, it's everybody, man. It's just community. So
I'm in DMs all day talking to people, just chopping it up. Probably a whole podcast worth of DMs. So it's like, it's definitely love, all love.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what makes it fun to do. I mean, that's I mean that community is really what we're all about and why we're doing this. So appreciate all you guys. But yeah, look, I think the video is encouraging. I mean, the thing that I hate about like you tweet anything about Mike Thomas and it's just like people are, it's just so like
why he by himself? Why he ain't around his teammates?
Yeah, or it's he looks and it's either comeback player of the year or oh my god, he's running in cement. And like I thought he looked pretty good running there. It looked fine to me. Yeah. It didn't look like anything. I thought he looked good. I took it as a positive sign. So yeah, it's exciting to me, man. As somebody who likes watching good football players play football, the idea of him getting back on the field is extremely exciting to me. I'm my curiosity to see what he is and what he can do and how he comes back from this. I mean, that's probably like if you ask me to list my things that that I want to see in the upcoming season, that's number one. Like I don't think there's anything above that. Like Chris Olave is exciting. Jarvis Landry is exciting. Tyrann Mathieu is exciting. What Jameis does is exciting.
I mean, you are the Will Lutz godfather.
Will Lutz coming back is an exciting.
How you don't call yourself the godfather, bro? Like, who are you?
No, well, that storyline. That storyline saying that. Yeah, I mean, I like that's the Will Lutz coming.
You could say the starter or the originator. You said
Godfather. But I'm the godfather of that talking point. Absolutely, it's like the most.
That's an aggressive
thing,
word.
But it's not. It's not the most significant thing. Mike coming back from the injury would be the most significant thing by far. And on my list of things that I'm watching for, like that's number one for the season. So that's that video is exciting to me, man. He's running more. He's running at the facility.
The caption, what did it say? Talk soon. So he's kind of like, that's Mike's little way of saying, hey, man, I hear y'all. Like that's how I read it. He's just trying to, I feel like Mike is in Mike's head, and he's always in his head. He's been like that even when he was at the top or even at the bottom. I think that's how his brain works. So, I feel like he's a man with something to prove, and that's where you want Mike Thomas. You want a motivated Mike Thomas who feels like people are forgetting about him, and that's probably where he is, and that's the best case. I mean, that's good for the Saints, right?
And and you got people like trying to time that, like the 30 yards on,
I saw
on the screen. Like here, main thing, like he isn't running a combine 40. Like he's not in like the start position and going.
He's not in the stance.
Yeah, I thought going from the 20 to the 30 though. I thought he was striding pretty good. I thought he looked pretty. I mean, I thought the video looked pretty good. I mean, granted, the main thing that we need to see from him now that we see him running, change the direction or something, and that's going to be a big thing for him. But you see forward progress, and I take it as an extremely positive sign. That video, you throw away the OTAs and everything. I mean, that's the most significant thing right now. Is Mike Thomas is running. He's at the facility. He's bought into the program. I take it as a very encouraging sign.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it'll be interesting to just see once he gets going, because I think part of it is just like people haven't heard from him in so long. I think that's probably what it is. So I just think just anything that he does, it's like you don't hear him talk. You don't like, what does the guy's voice sound like at this point? Has he gotten deeper? He's getting older. Is he, what I mean? It's just, in all seriousness, I think, and I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying I think that's part of the overreaction, because you're just like, oh, well, there's Mike Thomas in the Saints facility, right? And it's just like, okay, well, what's next? Okay, well, locker room talk, right? And it's just, I think it's just, you haven't heard from the guy, and the less you hear about someone, the more interesting they are, right?
Yeah,
like
at this point, anything he does is football related, is the most relevant thing going on in that moment, and that's just where it's at.
That's where it is. That's where it should be, right?
Yeah,
that's where it should be. So, most important, off-season storyline, and I would say addition to the team in a lot of ways. So, yeah, we're going to talk about it, and every time he posts himself walking in the grocery store, I'm pretty sure it'll come up. So that's just what it is. But let's get into some of the camp battles, because I think this is a more substantive conversation. So let's start with wide receiver. And when I think of camp battles, I don't really see people mention wide receiver a lot, because I think you feel relatively good about the top three. But I think once you get past that point, there's some guys that's got to compete for some spots, right? And so as I was looking up and down the roster, seeing where, like, okay, which one of these positions do we want to start at? The easy one would have been cornerback or something like that. But, I think the wide receivers are interesting. So, we can rank the group. I think we know what 1, 2, 3 is. I don't think it matters the order. But just what's your feeling on those, maybe not those top guys going into camp, but just some of the guys who maybe were the top guys last year, but this year, they may not, or they may, just depending on how things turn out, where their position will be on this roster as it pertains to the depth in that room.
Well, we're talking about 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, 4, 5, 6. I think 1, 2, 3, Mike, Jarvis, and Allante. I think that's how we'll probably just rate them right now. Or Allante, Jarvis, you can whatever, it doesn't matter. But just those guys like the Callaways, the undrafted free agents, the Traquan Smiths, the Hardys, et cetera.
I wouldn't be surprised if Traquan gets the most snaps out of the next trio of guys, just because I think in the running game and that he's probably going to get more snaps there. Target share wise, I probably wouldn't be surprised if it's Callaway. I will talk back though to last year during the offseason. Like, Jameis does have significant chemistry with Traquan Smith, and just the injury alignment of the two players didn't give them much exposure to each other in real games. So that's something that I still like. I'm not going to completely overlook. They got time on task there, and I wouldn't be surprised if that, manifests in some production somehow for them in the season if they really are that comfortable with one another. And they did a lot of stuff together last offseason. So I'm not gonna overlook that. But look, I think coming into it, receiver wise, take blocking out of it, it's Callaway 4. I think Traquan's probably 5, and then I think Hardy's probably more of like in a specialty type of role. But I wouldn't be surprised if he out yards those other two guys because
just 4 catches,
set,
180 yards.
The skill set I think aligns with the things that Jameis does really well. And I also think at the top, and we've touched on this I think previously at some point, it's come up somewhere. I wouldn't be overly shocked if Allante out yards one of the top 3 guys just off the home run
big
ability.
playability. The deep
and that's what Jameis does well. That's what Allante is going to do well. So like one Allante catch could be the equivalent. Will be the equivalent probably of 5 Mike Thomas catches just off the yards per reception. So I think those chunk plays are really going to bode well for both those guys. But I do think Callaway's probably number 4 receiver wise. He was the number 1 guy last year, 698 yards. You get him in the right role. I think there's a lot of stuff that he does well, and I think that he can probably settle into more of a role that suits his skill set. I think there was kind of this idea that he was going to be like a downfield type of player, and I think he does have good body control and the ability to go up and get balls and stuff like that. But he's not a burner. He's not a burner down the field. Traquan has more of that than I think Callaway does. I think Callaway's more of like a short to intermediate guy. And I think that they can settle him into just, a role that really works well for him. He gets off some of that coverage. He takes advantage of the opportunities. So that's probably how I would put it. But I do think that Traquan versus Callaway is going to be kind of like a little bit of a interesting competition between those two guys.
Yeah. It's a battle that I'm looking forward to, right? Because even if they didn't sign Landry, which I'm glad they did, we were pretty big advocates for that signing, which a lot of people were. Obviously, it's a good signing. But I think that Callaway, if you have Callaway as your number 3 receiver, I think you feel good about that, right? I think if he's your number 1 and he's getting you, X amount of how he got it last year based on the offense that they ran and the quarterbacks that he's playing with. If more guys are around him, you feel like he won't be seeing. I'm not going to say teams are game playing in the number 1 corner for the Saints because that's not what it is. But sometimes he won't necessarily see the best cornerback, which he did at times last year because just to the nature of the position that he's playing in. So that's one thing that kind of I think can benefit him this year. Also, just having guys around him, not being like if you looking at the Saints on a certain down, then you got to stop somebody. And you say, okay, well, Callaway's the guy, right? And maybe some of these other guys we don't feel too bad about. So. It just I think it frees him up a little bit. So I would probably say that he's someone that I would, definitely probably put at the top of that list. The next 2, I think I'd have Hardy next, and I say that because for the blocking, I think Jarvis Landry is someone that has a reputation for being a good blocker. So I don't think that skill alone gets him on the field.
I do because I think they're going to have to go 11, and they averaged 3.9 yards per carry out of 11 last year. That number has to be better. And if you want to be an effective 11 team, you're going to have to be able to run out of it. So I think you're going to need 2 blockers on the field at times. So I think that is going to get him those snaps. And then he can't be a tell, right? Like when you bring Traquan out every time, it can't be a running play. Or when you have Traquan and Jarvis on the field, it can't be a running play every single time. So you're going to have passes out of those. So I think that blocking ability is going to get him probably more snaps than the other 2 guys just because they don't have 2 tight ends that I think dictate snaps. And look, the other thing I will point out that I think is really interesting about that personnel package, up until 2016 with Sean Payton as the head coach, they never went over 50% of their snaps with it. The one season they did before that point, 2012 season, Pete Carmichael's your OC with no Sean there. Mm-hmm. So he might be more of an 11 proponent than Sean ever was. And now you have the personnel that dictates you do it. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they lean into that extremely heavily next year.
Yeah, I don't think they have no choice but to lean on 11 personnel, really. I mean, or even empty sets. That's what the strength of your team is, right? I think you have better. Your numbered 1 through 4 receivers are better than your number 1 tight end, whoever that is, and we'll get into that. So I think it'll force them into. I would say Marquez Callaway is a better receiver than anybody that's playing tight end on the team, at least at the moment, based on last time we saw those guys play. So. But yeah, one of the things I think about Hardy, why I would and where I had him in training camp hasn't started yet. So this is all fluid. But, I think he's someone that provides a skill set that only, Olave has, right? And so and Jameis and him, they have chemistry with the deep ball. And I'm just not willing to forget about that, right? Like he was their best receiver at times last year, in small stretches. He wasn't healthy. So I don't know. I think he's someone that, with those guys around him, the skill sets from the guys around him, the Mike Thomases, the Jarvis Landrys, the guys that can go over the middle, he's someone who is very fast, who can, get over the middle, can track the deep ball, and has some rapport with Jameis. So, yeah, he's just someone I'm keeping my eye on, and I think he can still have a place in this offense, even though you would obviously say Olave is probably higher.
No, I think he definitely has a spot in the offense. I think you got to pick your spots with him. I think Traquan probably outsnaps the other two guys. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised by that at all if they carry all 6 players. I wouldn't be surprised if any of these.
That's the question. Like, I mean, they may have to let somebody go, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't be, it could go any direction, honestly. Like if they were to add somebody else, like I wouldn't be shocked by that either. Like there's just a lot of things that could happen at this spot. I would probably be, if any one of these guys got let go, it would be like a major like whoa situation. It would.
You're saying it would be?
Yeah, it would be. It would be a headline type of situation. Any one of these 3 guys got let go, but it wouldn't be like, oh my God, what are they doing? Like there's a plausible thing where maybe one of them isn't on the team. And if you sign Jarvis early, does that dictate some of your actions afterward? So there's a lot of things that go into this.
Yeah, I think there's a place Traquan if you knew you was bringing Jarvis back. I mean, I
still think you need him, man. I still think you need him. I know people hate him and they don't want to. Nobody's ever gonna. He's one of those guys. No matter what he does, he's never gonna get credit for what he does at this point. He's always gonna be.
I think we know what he is. I mean, this is you and I talking about talking football. Like we know what he is. Right?
I think he's a solid player that deserves a place on pretty much any football team. I think he does enough things well. Health is the issue when he's healthy. I think he's worthy of a spot. He blocks well. He makes catches in traffic. He does a lot of dirty work. He's not a glamorous guy. I think at this point we know he's not going to put up huge numbers. But I think to operate the way they want to operate, you need a guy like him. And I think if you take him off the team, where is that second blocking option? If you are trying to run out of 11, and a lot of those runs are going to the outside, like who's going to do that work? And he's one of the guys that's going to do that work. He's a guy that you can run down the field the whole game to dig out a safety, and he's just going to keep doing it.
I thought Callaway was. I thought Callaway. I'm not saying he's better than Traquan, but I thought he was decent as a blocker this past year. He had his moments.
Yeah, he's fine, but like Traquan's like that's his bag, man. Like he does that well. They paid him pretty much for that skill. Like I don't think he's going to end up off the team. I know a lot of people want to cut him. I couldn't make that prediction right now.
I'm indifferent about it. Yeah, I'm indifferent about it.
But I think they keep all 6 of these guys. I think they're a better team with all 6 of them. There's a place for all 6 of them. And frankly, I think all 6 of them should be active on game days. Like I think there's a lot of stuff that you can do with these players. And
so when do you? But here's a question I would have about it. If you got a wide receiver whose his best attribute is a run blocker, you don't need him on most nickel downs. Like the most important down on the. Like I don't see a scenario where let me not say that, but if you're putting 3-4 wide receivers on the field and you need pass catchers because it's 3rd and 8, right? Like, I'm just struggling to see where he fits. So now it's like, okay, well, is he relegated to early downs? And then how valuable is that, right? And so it's just
Traquan gets down the field. He's a 3rd down player. He can play on 3rd down. He's made a lot of catches down the field.
But would you play him over Mike Thomas, Olave, Jarvis Landry, or Callaway on 3rd down?
I mean, I could very easily see a scenario where he cycles in on 3rd downs. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I wouldn't ever look at the field and be like, man, what's he doing out there on 3rd down?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say
made a lot of tough catches on 3rd down. Like I go back to the Detroit game, he played excellent in that game. Like he's made a lot of plays. He makes plays down the field. I don't think that he's a liability to your passing game. And I think he's probably more likely to not drop a pass than some other people too. So I don't really have a problem with him cycling in there. I don't think he's a primary option. I don't think Callaway should be a primary option with any of these guys. I don't think Hardy should be a primary option except on specific plays for Hardy. Like, so, I mean, they just cycle people in. I think there's a use for all of them, and I think they all have to get snaps in specific situations so that you don't have these tells, and it's not like, oh, Traquan's out there, so this is all they're going to do in this situation, So I think you got to use him in a variety of ways. And again, I don't think he's as limiting as kind of the way this conversation seems. I don't think he limits your offense really. I think he's just a player that cycles in. You get your snaps out of him, and that's kind of what everybody is going to be after the top three. And look, nobody plays 100% of the receiving snaps in this offense. Like there's no like some teams. It's like this is the X. He's out there every single play. Like that just isn't what they do. Like it. So all these guys, if they're on the team, they're going to play. They're going to have a role, and they use them to blitz the defense essentially through their personnel packages. So I don't think that's going to change. I think Pete's from the same school of thought as Sean Payton, and I think they're going to probably operate the same way. But I don't think that it's like with any of these guys, I wouldn't be like, what are they doing on the team? Like I think they all have a useful role, and you got to be mindful of how you use them. And if you are going to be receiver heavy, I think having all these options is probably a good thing. And I think having 6 guys where you look at it and you're like, man, all these guys deserve a place. And I think there's even a couple guys out at this practice that could probably be practice squad contenders. Like they have actual depth at this position now. Like Winston still does good things. And I'm looking at him at practice. I'm like, man, it'd be nice if they could find a way to keep him around in some capacity, practice squad or whatever. And Dixon has done some decent things out there. Like I don't know how that's going to progress, but there's a handful of guys, and I mean, I'll
tell you, a year ago, if you, heck, not a year, 4 months, 5 months ago, if you'd have been saying we're having a deep debate about the the 4th, 5th, and 6th wide receivers on the team, then this is a big turnaround from where they were. But yeah, it's an interesting group, man. It's an interesting group. I think. I just listening to this conversation and participating in it, I can see it going anyway, right? I wouldn't be super. I don't think it would be a big, gigantic shock if, we'll see how training camp goes, right? I think that's the main thing, right? We got to see the snaps and stuff like that. And they have depth there. Usually when you have depth at a position, sometimes a guy may get let go. So if they go with 5 guys there, I won't be super surprised, but it'll be just, I think all 6 of those guys, like you said, I think they.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they even got let go either. But it's just. I think they're all useful in their own
way. Yeah. Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I guess if you were to say maybe tie for maybe the biggest camp battle, I don't know. But cornerback is a big one, obviously, and I think they want competition there. I think they're gonna. From the looks of it, you don't draft a guy in the 2nd round and just say he's a backup, right? So that's a premium pick. So they drafted Allante Taylor in the 2nd round, and they drafted Paulson Adebo last year in the 3rd round. Who, he could improve, right? It's his 2nd year, and he has a lot of experience, and he's had a chance to figure out what works and what doesn't work in the NFL. And DA even spoke a little, glowingly about him a few days, highly of him about his growth. So, just what do you think of that battle? And obviously it's too early to tell, but just kind of what do you think of the battle that those 2 guys are going to have during camp?
I think it's probably going to be one of the more interesting ones for sure.
Yeah,
I think Adebo probably has the inside track on that job as he should. We need to see him. We need to see what they can really do. This camp really isn't, press man, knock guys out type of camp. It's a lot of off coverage and on physical type of stuff. So we aren't really going to get a feel, I think, for either of them. Taylor's forte is press man too. So we aren't seeing that either. But look, I think both these guys, Adebo's ready now. Taylor has some stuff that I think he needs to work on. I think Taylor moves really well. You see the upside, like when we're out there watching practice, like we talk about it all the time, like just like how much he kind of like pops every time you're out there, just through the.
He just looks like an NFL cornerback. Like you just watch him and say, "That's what you were born to do, bro." Like you're at the right profession.
Yeah, but we got to see the ball skills, but the movement ability is definitely absolutely there. But I think it's gonna be probably that. I think that's probably Taylor's initial path is on the outside, and then a year from now we'll see kind of where he fits in. But I think that's the only place where he can feasibly win a job, and I think it's a very, very much so an uphill battle. And look, they've shown us already like they're comfortable with their 2nd round pick, kind of sitting on ice for a year, picking things up, and then coming in a year from now and replacing a veteran player. So that could be.
So, question for you then, based on what you just said, if Taylor wins that job, what do you think it would be about from what you've seen so far? Like, what would you say? Okay, well, this is something that he could hang his head on that'll probably get him to a point where he can take that role. Like, what attribute, what trait have you seen from him? And again, it's limited, man. I'm asking you tough questions, but like you say, okay, well,
he's fast, he's strong, he's fluid, and I mean, there's. It's
check,
not
check.
Yeah, you don't have to if he shows to have the play recognition and the technique and the ball skills and all that stuff. I mean, but yeah, I mean the things that he can hang his hat on. I mean, there are plenty. It's every athletic attribute you can think of.
Debo has a lot of those too, though, right? I mean,
he does, but I mean, Taylor's like turn and go ability is a little bit different than I think a lot of people, especially at his size, and then his speeds, even like Debo has great speed. Debo has great speed. Like Taylor's a little bit faster. I mean, but there's a lot more that goes into playing that position than athletic ability. So I mean, there's a lot of things he's gonna have to show, improve, and kind of build upon.
But it's also the position where athletic ability matters the most too, right? So it's a little bit like.
So does technique, though.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you need half the battle is there, right? It's like you can be the smartest guy in the world. If you're slow, you can't play corner, right? So at least that's why those guys get drafted where they do. But yeah,
but if you're like missing jams or you can't turn quick enough or things like that, things are things they're gonna get you. They're gonna get you. So
you're a 5.040 if you take a false step.
right.
Yeah, it's over. Yeah, I think one thing that stands out to me about Taylor, and it sounds like a little corny, but he's just a dog, man. Like his personality, he's aggressive. I just get the feeling from he's a wildly confident dude. And I know it. I've heard a lot about his leadership skills. I've kind of listened to him talk. He just speaks he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna go here and do this, right? And I mean, you got to go on the field. It's got to happen. But they spoke extensively about his leadership skills and how he's he was one of the like I said, leaders of the team. He's a fast learner. He spoke oh yeah, the playbook, I got that. Don't worry, etc. So I'm not saying
Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, he was just kind of yeah, I got the playbook. I'm gonna be fine there. I wrote it. I was taking notes when he spoke during one of the OTAs. He didn't sound worried at all. He was yeah, I got that. And it was. He just seems like not cocky, but a confident guy. And just
it's interesting though because he talked extensively about how he had confidence issues at Tennessee, and he's trying to learn to be more confident and all that stuff too. So I think, I think that's the thing I'm watching for the most is, because he's trying to portray it, but he's also talked about, and we got a story on the website how he talked to Jalen Ramsey and kind of changed his mentality before his senior year at Tennessee, and there was a lot of stuff, but. I think he struggled with a lot of that stuff at Tennessee early on in his career, and I think he started to figure it out his senior year. So now at the next step, the question can you keep doing that, and can you keep it going, and can you not get in your head when things go bad, and can you keep that same mindset? The most shocking thing this dude said the whole offseason, and I don't even I don't understand how you don't know, but he said finding out how fast he was at the combine gave him even more confidence. It's just kind of how do you not know you're that fast?
I don't believe that.
That's super interesting to find out. And then he's just I know now if I no one's really going to be able to beat me over the top, and I know I can catch up to people and stuff like that. And I think it just probably kind of goes into his background as a football player, moving positions and doing different things, and just kind of learning on the fly at Division I in the SEC. By the way, there's probably a lot that goes into that, and it's kind of just a reminder that he is kind of still developmental, and he's just scratching the surface of that ability. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, if Debo wins that job this year, I don't think it means anything. I don't
think it means anything.
I think Allante Taylor's probably more of a 2023 draft pick than a 2022, and if he surprises you and gets there, sort of like Debo did last year, they had no idea he was going to be as good as he was going to be. They traded a third-round pick, to get a.
And that's kind of what I factor into it. I'm gonna repeat here, man. I always say it, but I just believe in coaching so much. I think Bill Belichick, my favorite quote from him is good players can't overcome bad coaching. It's impossible. And they got something in the secondary. Guys get to the secondary of New Orleans and they get better, right? They get Eli Apple got better. Janoris Jenkins had a good year. King Crawley had a good year. Malcolm Jenkins, even, he was playing well. They developed Marshawn Lattimore. They developed Paulson Adebo. So, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Marcus. I keep going on. Von Bell, Marcus Williams. So, I just feel like they do a good job scouting those guys, drafting those guys, and developing those guys. And just with a guy with those skill sets, and you marry that with the scheme and the coaching and the talent that's going to be around them, and it's a good situation from the being. It's a battle that I'm looking forward to, and like you said, Debo, let's not forget about him. If they didn't draft Taylor, then we wouldn't even be talking about cornerback 2 position, because you would feel like they were good there. So I think they just got good options there. And if one guy don't make it, then injuries happen, right? And I think you need 4 corners. It's a battle to pay attention to. At safety, do you think there are any battles to be had there? Whether it's fourth safety, third safety, fourth safety, etc. Like, how do you see? You look at May and Tyrann Mathieu, and you say, okay, those are the top 2. Like, how do you think the rest of that battle potentially plays out?
There could be a little bit of a battle if Justin Evans proves to be a good player between him and PJ, maybe for some snaps.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, I think it's kind of pretty much set at that position. But I mean, there are going to be, and I don't know that they had some of these competitions last year. There are going to be more battles for snaps and
depth.
Sorensen's an interesting guy too.
Don't mention him, man. That's gonna trigger people, man. That's just so crazy.
But it's so crazy. I think they got 6 guys there that feasibly are going to make the team. It's safety, 2 of them on special teams, JT Gray and Sorensen.
Okay.
He'll be in the Jeff Heath role, and then they got the top 4, so they might be 6. And then if you throw CJ in there, it's a lot of guys. So 7 safeties. Although I kind of got CJ as a cornerback.
I think he called himself a slot cornerback. I think Sean called him a slot cornerback. He plays slot cornerback. I'm gonna call him a slot, but
it's sort of like people kept calling like Junior a linebacker, and he definitely wasn't a linebacker at a certain point. So so that's a
linebacker. Yeah. I mean, you gotta, he wore a belt. He's definitely a linebacker.
Come on, man.
Oh, it wasn't that bad. Come on. That's crazy, man.
But I mean, I think they got good depth there, and it's gonna be interesting to see how it shakes out. It could definitely be 6, 7 deep, on the roster, depending on how you count them, and I think it will be. I mean, if Justin Evans keeps up and keeps moving well, stays healthy through camp, I mean, I think he's probably gonna make the team. So it's gonna be I mean, the distribution of roster spots I think it's gonna be fascinating, because there's a lot of guys at a handful of spots that I think should make the team.
Yeah, we were just talking about they may have to go deep at wide receiver. They may have to do the same. They have to do the same thing at safety, and moving on. At some point, you got 53 roster spots, and you're gonna have to figure out how that thing's gonna shake out. So, what about left tackle? How do you see? Last time you said best man is gonna win that job, but ideally we know what they want to happen there. That's probably
same thing. Best man is gonna win the job. I think that if you had to make the bet today, I think that is probably. I wouldn't be surprised if Hurst is penciled in ahead, and Penning kind of has to overcome him. I think they're comfortable having Hurst at that spot. I think obviously, ideally, you want Penning to win it. There's a long runway.
Do you think they split snaps at the start of training camp, or you think that one guy?
I think they'll probably both get a shot. I mean, if he's if he's at a point where it's worthwhile, to have him there. Yeah, if he's at least in the conversation, I think I could see some of them splitting snaps and kind of rotating through that. But I think they're definitely comfortable starting James Hurst if they have to.
They've done it in the past, right?
Yeah, they aren't going to force anything, to kind of appease people and keep a conversation a certain way. And that's one of the luxuries. And I think we've said this before. I think that's one of the luxuries of just having a very stable organization where nobody's looking at the GM and like, is he earning his keep? Nobody's, breathing down anybody's neck. There's trust in how things work top to bottom. And there's
David Pepper's not over Matt Rule's shoulder wondering how he's going to be.
No one's working to save a job or anything like that. Like, everybody's very comfortable and confident in where they're at. And that allows them to do things like that, where you can draft somebody in the first round, in the first half of the first round, and they might not necessarily be ready to play week 1. It might be week 8. It might be 2023. And it doesn't matter. Like, nobody's getting a demerit over it. Like, it's a long game.
I
And
mean, they
play
had a
it like it's
second round
long
draft
game.
pick last year who they didn't start, right? And
Right.
they feel, they was able to, so a point. Just real quick, like say, Taysom and guys, Taysom Hill and James Winston last year, they had basically kind of mostly for the most part split snaps. And so with Debo and Taylor, do you think they'll split snaps like that, or do you think it'll probably just be like the rookie running with the second team for a while, or do you think they're going to approach it like, no, this is a battle day one?
I think Debo probably starts out ahead. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they cycle him in at some point to get some different looks, but I don't know if that's like super unusual. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be probably like a 50-50 thing.
Okay.
I think it kind of starts out at a certain place, and then if somebody earns the opportunity to move up, they move up, and I think that's probably how it'll go. But I don't think it would start out as a 50-50 battle. But look, I could be wrong. Like, maybe that is closer than I think it will be. But in the
past,
you
got mini camp to go to. It's more football to be played between now and the start of training camp too. So he could separate himself or he could not, right?
Yeah, in the past. So like, I don't know that we necessarily like kind of saw those things like that. So with some of those other battles, it just kind of like, at one point it just kind of happens like, oh wow, this guy's running with the starters now. But look, I like if it starts out with a Debo, like I wouldn't be surprised if there's a day where Allante Taylor gets some first team snaps and they get a look at him, and okay, if that exposure is good, maybe he gets another one. And so I won't be shocked by some of that stuff. But I do think that it's starting out like firmly a Debo, and Taylor probably has to overcome him.
Yep. Okay. Just a few. Just you can comment or not comment on these other ones because we got a couple other topics I wanted to make sure we get to. But interior O line, running back 2, tight end. Any thoughts about just those battles, or you can speak on one of them or a couple of them?
I don't really think there's any battle on the interior O line.
Yeah. I had to bring it up, but I agree with based on what the New Orleans Saints organization is saying. I think that's probably fair. And then the rest of the positions, running back 2, we'll see what happens there. They still may bring in a guy, and then tight end. I think that situation will play itself out. I think right now it's probably Troutman, tight end 1, and then Juwan Johnson, and Taysom Hill's got to get healthy, so I don't even know where to put him. So, and Vanetta is another one of the guys, and of course the Conqueror. So we'll see what happens at that position. But yeah, that's something you kind of wait for training camp. The other thing that I thought was interesting is that I want to chat, about just some of the veterans who, that you think like have to step up this year, right? I have a few guys on my list, and I'll just start with one. I'll pick the first guy, and I'll let you run with it. But the first guy I put on there, and I'm not saying he's number 1. I'm just saying the guy that I thought about that, I was like, okay, well, who's someone that he wouldn't be the first person I think of, and it was Pete. I put Andrews Pete on there. I think he has to have a good year. They missed him when he was gone last year. I think he has to be healthy this year. He has to play well, because I think the O-line is probably maybe the biggest question on this team this year, in a lot of ways. So, Andrews Pete.
Yeah, runs to the left side last year were atrocious, and I got the number somewhere. I wrote a story about it somewhere.
Nick did not know I was going to ask that, by the way. I just want to put it out there.
But I think they average like 3 yards per carry, runs to the outside of the left side, and obviously like some of that's being games without Armstead, but I think it was a more reflective of being without Pete. I think that's like a huge thing for them. He's huge in the run game. He's extremely talented in the run game.
Yeah.
In the screen game, getting down the field, mauling people.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And the pass blocking stuff could clean up a little bit. Some of those like home run losses is kind of what I call them.
That's a good way to put it.
those things, I mean, some of those need to change.
You just lose really bad. Like if I'm gonna lose, this is gonna be ugly, and I'll move to the next play.
Yeah. Veteran guy that needs to step up. I think, my mind kind of goes to Nick Vanetta a little bit. I think that when he came here last year, he talked about being a threat in the passing game. I think that needs to be a little bit more. I think he needs to block well. That's something an element they're going to need, especially again. If they're running out of 11 and he's kind of like one of the main guys out there, I think that's something he's going to need to do well. And
it's an interesting name. Yeah.
I just think, red zone, some stuff. I just want to see him do a little bit more. Just kind of how he came in, talking about he could be a really good receiver in the pass game.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to see more of it.
Yeah. All right. Good guy there. I didn't even think about him. All right. So moving through these guys, what's your thoughts about Ramczyk? I'm just gonna start throwing names at you. I don't think his play is something to concern. I think him just being healthy and being on the field and having a good year. That's why I put him on the list.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily worried about that. I think he'll be healthy. I think the knee will be fine now. I'm more, I think more about him down the road with some of the injuries he's had and just kind of how that stuff goes. So I think I'm not worried about him. I think he'll be good. I think he'll bounce back and be really good. And look, he was really good playing through an injury last year, but being healthy and
different guy.
Yeah,
different guy. McCoy.
Yeah, I mean, I think like everybody else on that interior O line, I think that not having Pete next to him played a part in kind of just. I think his job was harder than it should have been last year with Ruiz and no Pete. So Ruiz needs to play better. Pete needs to be healthy and play well, and I think that will allow McCoy to shine.
Do you think McCoy played better the year before his 2020? Better than 21, or do you think that's they?
I think he had, I think the circumstances just surrounding the interior O line last year were difficult, and I don't think I can pinpoint anybody for that. I think just when that everybody's doing their job, it allows everybody to do their job better and look better. And yeah.
Kind of the same situation with some of the other positions on the team. Like you're hard to judge a quarterback when he doesn't have weapons, right? So.
Right.
David Onyemata, he had a slow start. He kind of picked it up a little bit, but not coming off suspension. Strong start this year. Yeah. What about Dio?
Got to start faster, like you said. I think when he's, and I think he was doing some stuff that helped the pass rush that didn't necessarily get highlighted. And then I think once everybody was out there, like everybody else, like it goes hand in hand. And I think he played better once Davenport was out there. Like everybody played better once Davenport was out there. So, but yeah, I think he needs to get off to a fast start. The interior D line, I think, is maybe the one spot where on defense where they could still justify adding somebody.
Yeah.
And if they don't, I think that he needs to be, is productive and getting the stats and showing the numbers and doing all that stuff. And it's not all about sack numbers and all that stuff. Like we're beyond that, we can understand the impact, but also
games.
When you're knocking on the door and you're around the quarterback, like those plays happen, so I just want to see him kind of pick back up where he was 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah. You already mentioned Davenport. I put him and Cam together. I just think one has to be healthy and the other one just needs to pretty much be the player he was last year, right? And I know that's easier said than done for Cam Jordan. He's been in the league since 2011. So, you don't take his longevity for granted. But yeah, I don't even know if there's much to say about them too, but they're in different ways, but I just think the D-line needs both of those guys to play.
Yeah, the Jenga blocks for me really are not necessarily like veteran guys. I think they're three younger guys. I think it's Troutman, I think it's Ruiz, and I think it's Peyton Turner. And if all three of those things turn out positive, I think you have like a really, really good team. And everybody else.
I put Peyton Turner on breakout player, so that was like
spot
on.
Yeah. So those guys, for me, they're kind of the guys here. Like if we're talking about like plus minuses, if you get the pluses on all three of those, like your team's kind of perceived weaknesses or addressed, and then your pass rush, I think, is just it's out of this world. Like if you get him, Davenport, Cam, Tano Passanio, Onyemata, like there's a lot of guys. Carl Granderson. Yeah, there's a lot of guys that can get after the quarterback.
Coach Nielsen mentioned Tuttle on the Saints podcast a couple of days ago as someone who's a leader and a veteran in there. So I mean, it seems like they feel good about those guys. A lot of these guys, these guys like, hey, these guys, they need to like they need to have a good year for the position that they're in. And then you mentioned Peyton Turner, and I mean, it feels, he's another guy who feels like we haven't seen him on the field in a while, but just remind us like what he was coming out of college. How did he start? How did he look in training camp? And just kind of maybe some of the expectations for him going into his second season.
I thought he looked really good that first game that he came and played last year, started out with the injury, then came in. And
he was good that game. Yeah.
He's a good pass rusher. He's smart. He knows how to stack moves, play with some technique. He's got heavy hands. I think when everything clicks for him, it's really good. And I just think he just needs to get out there and he needs to play and get the experience and be able to rep some of the stuff that he's been learning and picking up and becoming a better pro coming out of Houston. So I think there's a lot of room for growth. I think he's still like an exciting prospect. I think he can eventually be a really good player. People forget about him.
Yeah.
And, the unfortunate thing with that shoulder injury is that like he hasn't really been able to do a lot of pass rush stuff this offseason, like on the field, actually going through it. But technique wise, I think just getting on the field and playing is going to do wonders for him. I think he just needs to get out there and just rep it. But yeah, I think he's going to be a good player. I'm just repeating myself now, but
does he have the power that Davenport has?
Yeah, I mean he I don't think a lot of people have the power Davenport has, but
who does?
But he's an extremely strong player, and he's got heavy hands. Like people have trouble, it's hard to get your hands on him, and he can kind of chop out of some of that stuff. And I was impressed last year just with like some of his instincts and how he was able to stack moves. And I asked him, there's one pass rush in particular, like it looked like he like had set it up, and then the second time he ran it, he did the same move and then like hit a spin move. And he like it wasn't like a deliberate setup, like it was just kind of his instincts taking over in that moment. And when you get those instincts and they get married with like being around Nielsen, having the rush plan and just learning all that stuff, and being able to stack everything together with the instincts with the pass rush plan, I think his game's going to go to like another level. And I think he's starting out at a pretty decent point for someone that a lot of people called developmental. And I think he is a developmental player. And I think there is, some, I'm reluctant to use the word raw because like when you say raw, it's like there's like nothing there, but like there is room for him to kind of, cook areas of his game up a little bit more and become a little bit more, marinated and just, well prepared for some of the stuff that he needs to do.
Yeah. It's like adding it's kind of like another first round pick with him.
It is
on the team because it's just like this really exciting, wildly talented player at a premium position, by the way. And it just it's he's like someone to watch. Like he's like it's like you said, like it's a new first round pick that they got this year. Your favorite guy on the whole team, Pete Werner. I can't even tee you up on him. I just got to give you the open. I'm gonna let you do you like West Side. Just
I feel bad for Pete Werner because he's probably going to be one of the people that nobody ever speaks fairly about like forever because Quan Alexander, and then there were just like so many extreme draft takes coming in last year that people are going to get married to those, and then they're going to anytime a play gets given up, they're going to act like Quan never gave up a play, although Quan gave up a lot of plays. So I feel kind of bad for the circumstance he's in, and just like in the context of the conversations that they're going to have. I think he does a lot of things really well, though. He's good in the run game. I thought he was, I would go so far as to say that he was excellent in the run game.
He was really good in the
last year. And I thought he was good in the pass game. I thought he put himself in the positions he needed to be in. Obviously, he doesn't have the sideline speed that Quan Alexander has, but I think that Pete Werner's instincts are really good, and I think just getting more experience being on the field, I think that stuff's going to become heightened and it's going to become even better. And I think a year in the playbook, a year in the system, it's going to allow his instincts to even shine more than they did last year, because now he knows why he's doing what he's doing in a better way. And I think that allows you to focus more on the offense and look for things that you can kind of read and anticipate instead of worrying so much about where am I supposed to be lined up? What's my role in this call and all that stuff. So I think I think he's prepared to have in a position to have a really good season. And I thought the stuff we saw from him last year in limited snaps was really good. And look, I'm sure he's not going to be a perfect player, but who is? And I think he's going to be. Obviously they've currently, as it stands now, June 7th, like they've made the decision that he makes them a better team than his predecessor, because the predecessor isn't here. So, we'll see if he makes good on that bet. Yeah, no,
good points there. I just get to make fun of you on him, but he was like the first guy that was, talking about him. I remember me and you texting about him at the draft, and I was like, man, I don't see
we
it.
had some battles.
Man, you was like trying to like, but you were right. I call it like I see it. I call it like I see it. But here's a question, and I'm not saying that I think this, but I just think it's something that maybe is in the back of people's heads, maybe a little bit. You know how the notion around Mac Jones is that like he's a super smart guy and he's got like this ceiling, and it's like, yeah, well, he'll get good, he'll get to a certain point fast, but then he'll hit this wall, right? Because he's not like Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes athletic. Like, do you see Pete Werner as that type of guy who's like has a limited athletic ceiling, but is a smart player, so he'll always have a place in this league? Or is he someone that can, he can turn into a really good player because he has the athletic profile to do it?
First, did you put this comment on the screen up, or did DJ comment in the YouTube chat and then put his own comment?
No, DJ is full of himself. I can't even reach that. I gotta lean on the keyboard, man. That's DJ all day. You can't use your power like that, DJ. Like, you can't just put yourself at the top of the question list.
Oh man. So I don't think that like Werner's like when you kind of like ask a question like that, it kind of suggests that he has like no athletic ability, which I disagree with that. I mean,
that's why I say I don't believe this, but I've just seen people allude to it. That's why I'm just trying to say, hey man, let's just talk about it, kill it, right? But that's the thought behind the question. It's not like, hey, I think Pete Werner's like a snail.
I mean, I think that like his intelligence and read and react and instincts and all that stuff are an attribute to his game, but I don't think that he's like this super unathletic person. I don't necessarily agree with that premise. So I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that. I mean, I think he's a decent athlete with great instincts, and I think the instincts allows his 4.6 speed to play a little bit better than the 4.6 speed. So I mean, I guess in some sense that's part of it, but I don't feel like he's like a misplaced person on the field. Like there's definitely linebackers in the league that are slower than him that succeed.
Yeah. He's not what's the linebacker that they had, the guy from the CFL? He was like a short linebacker. He was just a
Adam Big Hill.
Yeah, big yeah, what's his last name?
Big Hill.
Big Hill, yeah, Big Hill. He's not Big Hill. Like Big Hill was like someone who you could tell.
Well, no, he's a second round pick. That's
he's got a limited
team. Yeah, that went to Ohio State, and
right. Yeah, that's my point. It was like he's not an unathletic person. Like he's not like the guy for these guys that they had in Tampa, right? But he doesn't lack anything at the linebacker position physically that would stop him from being a good player in the NFL for a long time. And that's just the point I wanted to get across. Man, all right. That's all we got. I do have one more thing.
I got one more thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank God they did not trade for Deshaun Watson.
See, I wasn't gonna go there because this pod's gonna be longer than
we don't need to get into it. That's all I gotta say. Just every now and then we gotta say that on here. But man, bro, like who know? Allegedly, all this stuff. But man, there's a lot of stuff that's been coming out. Like, and it just feels like every day there's something new,
bro.
And man, I am glad we don't have to sort through that. Whew.
Bro, you might have to call Ian, and Kevin needs a month off because he can't talk about it no more, bro. Like
when that was going on, the one thing I probably didn't properly appreciate is that like there was more comment. Like I don't even know, like it might have just like Jenny Rentis' story, like it just got like so much, like that's just so much more.
Bro, the New York Times are on you, dog. Like the New York Times, like. You are, man, bro. You talk about you dodged a nuke like that. Cleveland, man, like that. That's just gonna make nothing can be normal, right? And not even getting into we've spoken at length about the allegations, but just like
at this point, it's impossible to talk about football. It's impossible to talk about football at this point. Yeah,
right. It's like, well, what do you want to do at linebacker? No one cares about the battle. No one cares about David Njoku's extension. Like none of the stuff matters. That Myles Garrett is like on the Hall of Fame pace. It's just like this whole thing distracts everything. So,
well, even as far as he goes, like you can't even kind of go to this place where you just kind of treat him like a football robot, so to speak, and you just kind of cover it, and you don't ever glorify him. you kind of, you make sure that you're consistently mentioning, the sexual assault allegations and all that stuff. But like, you can't even like move forward in the like mini camp. And here's what Deshaun's doing and this and that. Like, you can't even talk about that. Like, because there's something new consistently. And I'm just so happy. I am so happy that they missed out on that, man.
Your little Cesar Ruiz article and your Mike Thomas.
Yeah, it's just the topic never changed. Yeah,
none of that stuff would be like all the stuff that we like to talk about.
Oh, there'd just be such a dark cloud over everything, man.
What we love about football would evade us. You know what I mean? And it would just
because it's every day. It's about life and human decency and all this stuff. And again, allegedly, I'm not. Anyways.
Yeah, I'll say this.
Thankfully, that one moved. That one did not happen.
We would be like taking the summer off. We'll see you guys during mini camp, rookie mini camp, OTAs, and training camp.
Yeah, that wouldn't actually happen. But I mean, it would have been. I'm just glad, man.
I'm so happy, man, that we don't have to deal with that. Well, my last thing is that everybody that's in this room listening to us chat, if you're not subscribed to NewOrleans.Football, this is a commercial, by the way. Please go and sign up. NewOrleans.Football/subscribe. DJ took his name off the screen and put where you guys can sign up. So shout out to DJ. But man, the URL is on the screen. Go there, sign up. Just pick a tier. Just pick anyone that works for you. There's a few options there, and it's gonna be all good, man. A lot of the stuff that we kind of alluded to is on the site, and it's like way more in depth. The whole I watch every step Jarvis Landry took in high school type articles. That's where you find them at. So if you're not signed up, please do so. We appreciate it. To the people that do support us, thank you, chat, for showing up. Yeah, we appreciate you guys. Everybody be good. Everybody be safe. Thank you guys for listening. We see you next time we see you. We out.
Got you. We in the dome right now, we in the zone right now. Put your hands in the air, cause it's on right now. Yeah, we back up in this thing and we coming for the crown. Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
We in the dome right now, we in the zone right now. Put your hands in the air, cause it's on right now. Yeah, we back up in this thing and we coming for the crown. Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
As you can tell, last year it was an off year, but we reloaded and now it is our boss year. Seated back there and yeah, we got the badger. Don't forget my shun and don't forget the pass rush. Jameis QB1 dropping down to MT. Ball handed off the Alvin with the quick feet. So when you see the Saints marching, yeah, we gon' trouble you. At the Super Bowl party eating on them double. We in the dome right now, we in the zone right now. Put your hands in the air, cause it's on right now. Yeah, we back up in this thing and we coming for the crown. Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
We in the dome right now, we in the zone right now. Put your hands in the air, cause it's on right now. Yeah, we back up in this thing and we coming for the crown. Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.